AI Limit has just dropped its demo, and I had to immediately jump to see if this new Souls-like game lives up to the hype. Is it a worthy addition to the genre, or just another forgettable attempt? Let's find out more. So first and foremost, AI Limit is a Souls-like action RPG developed by Sense Games in China. The game takes clear inspiration from Dark Souls, especially in its combat mechanics, world design, and cryptic storytelling. AI Limit is a Souls-like action RPG developed by Sense Games in China. The game takes clear inspiration from Dark Souls, especially in its combat mechanics, world design, and cryptic storytelling. The role-based combat and how the story unfolds through the character dialogues give off Dark Souls 1 vibes. But AI Limit doesn't just copy Souls-like mechanics, it also brings in elements that feel reminiscent of Code Vein, especially in terms of its visual design. The branches, which act as the game's bonfires, strongly resemble Code Vein's, and the environment, at least in the demo, has a similar background to Code Vein as well. At the start of the game, you take control of a female protagonist known as the Blader. However, she has lost her memories, a classic trope in Souls-like games. As you progress, you can interact with these branches to slowly restore fragments of your past. This is a really intriguing setup because it hints at a deeper narrative that will be revealed piece by piece. Or if it goes for a more structured narrative, like Code Vein. One thing I really appreciated early on was how the game allows you to explore a bit before throwing difficult enemies at you. The first few fights act as a warm-up, letting you get a feel of the mechanics without being overwhelmed. AI Limit's combat isn't overly complex, but it has depth. Dodging, attacking, and similar abilities all flow together smoothly. I personally found that spells weren't as effective as raw melee combat, or at least for me, but that's most likely just my playstyle. One of the most unique features I found in AI Limit is the Mud Energy system. This mechanic allows aggressive gameplay by increasing your attack power if you continuously land hits without taking damage. However, if you get hit or use any abilities, this power starts to deplete. This system reminded me a little of Bloodborne's rally mechanic, which encourages players to stay aggressive rather than just running away from danger. Also, there's no stamina bar in this, which means you're not constantly managing endurance. At first, you start with a rusty weapon, but after progressing a bit, you meet a certain NPC who lets you choose between 3 weapons. This was a cool moment because it felt like the game was letting me define my playstyle early on. I personally went with the dual daggers because, let's be honest, they look awesome, and it's just my style. They also felt fast and fluid compared to heavier weapons, which might be more satisfying for those who enjoy quicker combat. This brings up an interesting question. Will AI Limit offer a variety of playstyles like now, where different weapons lead to completely different combat experiences? The game design in AI Limit is something I really like. The enemies, especially the white robot ones, were well detailed and well animated as well. As you progress, you start facing enemies with different weapons, and some areas are noticeably more challenging than other areas. This keeps things fresh and makes you adapt instead of just spamming the same attacks. There were a few mini bosses in the demo, as well as a main boss. Early on, there's a mini boss that you can fight immediately, but I found him quite difficult during my stream. However, I like the fact that you can teleport back and fight him later after leveling up. The main boss of the demo is where things really get intense. His first phase isn't too bad, but once you reach stage 2, his speed and aggression increase significantly. By the final stretch of the fight, he becomes incredibly frustrating, but not impossible. But it does require some precision and patience, just like any great Souls-like boss. Visually, AI Limit is stunning. As I mentioned before, it gives off Dark Souls and Code Vein vibes. It also has its own unique identity. The world feels atmospheric and gritty, and the character animations are much smoother, much more realistic than Code Vein's. One minor issue I noticed was the music. During boss fights, sometimes the music would play and other times it wouldn't. This could just be a minor bug in the demo, but I hope they polish it up for the full release. I played the game on an RTX 2060 and it ran smoothly with no lag spikes or performance issues. For a demo, this is pretty impressive considering how many games release in an unoptimized state nowadays. Of course, things might change in the full release, but so far, the game looks well optimized and hopefully Sense Games maintains this level of performance across all platforms. One thing that left me curious was the mud system and its connection to the story. Some NPCs do warn you to not use the mud system, yet there are mud-based items that restore health and they boost your attack power as well, so it's pretty confusing. This contradiction makes me wonder if there's a deep consequence to using mud. Maybe in the full game we'll see some kind of negative effect tied to relying on its kind of like hollowing in Dark Souls or corruption mechanics in other RPGs. That being said, I do wish the demo gave a little bit more insight into the story, as right now it feels mysterious but also a bit vague. Hopefully the full release fleshes out the lore while maintaining the same level of gameplay quality. Would I stream and play the full game? Absolutely. If you're a fan of Souls-like games, I also recommend that you try it out as well. Now I want to hear from you guys if any of you played AI Limit. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments.